Did you know that Alya's story did not come from a screenwriter's imagination? This story truly happened once in Iran. Those who watched the series Uzak Şehir remember how Alya became trapped in Mardin under the shadow of a will. A very similar feeling was experienced in real life in Iran in the mid 1980 seconds. In real life, the hero of this story was an American woman, Betty Mahmoody. When Alya returned to Mardin, she was pulled into familial pressure. When Betty went to Iran, she fell into the midst of political, cultural, and familial pressure. While Alya was told, "This is our tradition," Betty was told, "This is our law." But the result was the same. Both women had to live not with their own freedom in their own land, but by someone else's rules. In Uzak Şehir, the Albora family does not allow Alya to leave the city with her son. In the real story, Betty's passport was taken from her right after she got off the plane. While Alya's path was blocked by claims of family honor, Betty's path was blocked by claims of the law. In both stories, the thing that stole their freedom was the same. The will of the family or society had replaced the woman's own will. As time passed, the pressure increased even more. For Alya, this was a feeling of suffocation felt within Mardin's stone houses, in the silent corridors. For Betty, it was an imprisonment echoing in the streets of Tehran, behind the iron doors of the house, and within the traditions. And there was a common silence surrounding both of them. No one helped openly, everyone said that's the rule. And the women, just like Alya and Betty, had to find their own way within the silence. The pressure on Alya was silent. It wasn't an open threat, but more like an invisible net closing in around her. Everyone in the house was polite but distant. They acted as if she had no right to live. Decisions were being made for her, not by her. This silent siege was causing her to suffocate internally. It is at this point that Betty's story comes into play. She experienced the pressure in a much harsher, overt, and institutionalized way. When she went to Iran, her passport was taken, and her phone access was restricted. She was not allowed to leave the house. Alya's suppressed freedom was, for Betty, officially revoked. What both women experienced was the same: control. One in the name of family, the other by state law, but in the end, neither could decide her own life. Those scenes where Alya looks at the house door with her son and asks herself, "Can I leave?" carry almost the same feeling as the moments when Betty in Iran looked at the iron gates and secretly made escape plans. Different geographies, different languages, but the same loneliness. And at this point, both stories approach a breaking point. A sentence grows inside them. "This is not my home." For Alya, this sentence turns into a silent resistance against familial pressure. For Betty, it is the beginning of a deadly escape plan where she would risk her life. Doors close politely on Alya. Doors are locked on Betty. But the same question echoes in both women's minds. How do I get out of here? Pressure first silences the soul. Then it takes away one's ability to act. For Alya, this meant withdrawing inward a little more each day, becoming a little more isolated. The stone walls in Mardin were silent, but the cage she was trapped in inside was very loud. No one was shouting at her, but everyone was making decisions over her. Yet, she was a woman who had made her own choices all her life. Now, even where she could go with her own child was being decided by others. It is precisely this moment that was a completely different yet equally sharp turning point for the real-life Betty Mahmoody. She remained silent for months, she made plans, she tried, and one night, in the middle of a snowstorm, she took her little daughter Mahtob in her arms and left the house. The escape was not just from a house, it was an escape from a life, from a fear, from a chain. In Alya's story, this escape becomes the dramatic backbone of the series. Her quest for freedom is more symbolic. She casts out the fear, begins to raise her voice. She confronts authority, family, the pressure mechanism called tradition. Betty, however, literally had to escape. A mother made the most difficult decision. Either stay there and lose her child, or risk everything and flee. And she chose the second. A freezing cold journey began, from Iran to the Turkish border. Smugglers, mountain paths, snowy night, the danger of death. With every step was the possibility of never being able to return. But sometimes freedom is just one step away. Alya, too, takes that step in her own story. Maybe not a physical escape, but it is a moment of decision. I will no longer allow anyone to make decisions for me. This is the point where the two stories come closest to each other. One, a real woman risking her life in the icy mountains of Iran. The other, a fictional character trying to break the chains of pressure in Mardin. But both of their stories merge into a single sentence. No woman should lose her say over her own life. Betty Mahmoody finally managed to escape from Iran. That escape, which began on a freezing dark night, turned into a story of freedom when it reached the Turkish border. With her little daughter in her arms, she took refuge in the American embassy in Ankara. And then she returned to America. But not every freedom story is a happy fairy tale. For Betty, this return was not the end of the nightmare, but the long shadow of the trauma. For years, she couldn't sleep, had nightmares, lived with the constant feeling of having to flee again. Her daughter Mahtop carried the marks of these events she witnessed as a child for a long time. Years later, she also wrote her own book. This true story reached millions of people. In the series Uzak Şehir, this story takes on a completely different language. The series replaces Iran with Mardin. It replaces a real escape with an internal resistance against cultural pressure. Alya's struggle is a dramatized, romanticized, but essentially same message-bearing reflection of the tragedy Betty lived through. In the later episodes of the series, Alya's story, caught between love and family, reaches a dramatic end combined with intrigues. In the real story, there was a struggle for survival. In the series, this struggle is molded into a form loved by ratings: love, betrayal, revenge. But at the center of both stories is a mother's fight for her child. And this is what makes the story truly powerful. A woman, a mother, and her struggle for freedom. Uzak Şehir may be a fiction, but the emotions it carries are completely real. Because a mother's struggle for her child knows no borders, a real drama that began in Iran, a story that turned into a series set in Mardin, and the common heart of these two narratives, freedom. Behind Uzak Şehir, there isn't just a screenplay. There is a real woman's, a real child's, real escape story. And sometimes, the most powerful way to understand a series is to hear the silent voice behind it. So what did you feel while watching or listening to this story? Let's meet in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel.